Lagos has been called the new fashion capital of the world by CNN and British Airways. According to BA High Life magazine, Lagos, this dynamic West African city of 17 million inhabitants, now ranks with London, Paris, Milan, and New York in terms of consumerist taste for fashion as well as innovative output. The fashion industry never sleeps in Lagos, from high-end fashion to mid-range bespoke fashion to roadside tailors. Every occasion from births to social events to weddings to funerals demands innovative fashion. But what is quintessential Lagos fashion? What has influenced the style evolution of the city through time? And what is it about Eko that has made it the fashion capital of Africa?
We like to have the best of everything. That's something that we strive towards. Yeah, being unique and standing out.
I think that the Lagosian wants to be the best dressed. Even when you're dressed down, you kind of want to be the best dressed.
There's a word that I usually use, and it's like, notice me or I die. Notice me or I die.
I went to South Africa. I've been to all the 54 Africa countries. But I will tell you, when I walk on the street in Kenya, people always say, Nike, you come from Lagos, you come from Lagos. You go to Uganda, they will be saying, you are from Nigeria, you are from Lagos. They don't know any other country more than Lagos. And that is why it's very, very important. Lagos is the head of the fashion, and Lagos is the place to be.
Long before contact with the West, medieval Lagos was populated by the local Awori fishing tribes that lived there in the late 14th century. The city was later colonized by the Benin Empire, which established a monarchy there. The local Aworis and their Bini kings created a highly sophisticated city-state in which every aspect of private and public life, including manner of dressing, was informed by the monarchy, a group of wealthy landowners, customary law, and religion. There was less emphasis on individuality and more on tradition. In this city-state, fashion was not for mere ornamentation. It was one of the most important elements of everyday life. The body itself was viewed artistically as a canvas to adorn with carefully hand-woven fabrics, intricate woven hairstyles, headgear, and jewelry.
We used our body as the canvas for creating fashion. We would paint our bodies with chalk. We would paint it with dyes that we would find from plants and different materials. Body scarification later came in a form of cutting the body. And from those patterns, we took those patterns and we actually applied them later to fabrics.
The creation of the fabrics used to make these clothes in traditional Lagosian society was not simply artistic. The fabrics themselves, it seems, had a language.
Adire was always used as a symbol, as a means of communication. So we're pretty much telling our stories through this cloth with just symbols, but then those in the know, of course, understand what these stories mean. And I think it's important that we tell our own stories, and because who else will?
History of Adire come from before I was born, because I'm a 5th generation Adire maker, and the whole Nigeria do Adire. The way they pass education to kids in those days, and that is how Adire is passed on to each person in our own society. This is the zero that represents water from Lagos. This is Shekere, the one that represents the music of Lagos. Lagos, Owambe, they always make Shekere. Then when your star is shining, Lagos is where your star actually starts shining. Without Lagos, nobody will know you. If you haven't come to Lagos to make your star, nobody know. In those days, if you are in love with your husband, you wear your adire that has little gecko. Then your boyfriend or your husband will say, oh, my wife is telling me I need a room in her heart. I need a room in her life, because the gecko represents, no matter how small the house is, you must find me a room.
Through fashion and dressing, indigenous Lagosians found artistic expression that documented their experiences.
Ashoke is purely woven. There's a lot of process involved. Back then, what they did was pick the wool, the cotton, they spin it into wool. Depending on the color of Ashoke they want to make, they dye it, and the dye process has different stages. If, for instance, it's a soyo is a khaki brown one. They pick the bark of the tree, because then they never had all the soda and things that we use to dye now. So it was purely natural.
In the history of Lagos in those days, the king, even the king of Adele, before he will meet any important guest, he must wear his sanyo. I have some old photo of the king of Lagos wearing the sanyo to receive all these king of England, because it's a very, very traditional fabric. And the king of Lagos has to show it to the other younger king from other town and villages. Then the Etu, it depends who is coming. If Queen Elizabeth is coming, he will show love by wearing the blue indigo Etu. If it's to receive just ordinary head of state, he can use the sonya, which is silkworm. And the thread, it takes so long to get the thread from the silkworm.
They had silkworm farms, and they would spin the threads from this that the silkworms produced, and those were used to make those ashokes that look so, they look really rustic, but they're actually all very organic, because the yarn that was used to weave them was silk, so they were actually pure silk.
Ashoke is so important that in the olden days, they never had any ceremony without Ashoke. If you were going to get married, you would have ordered your Ashoke, about a year or 6 months before, because of the tedious process to which it was made then.
Family tó ní tí wọ́n jọ̀rẹ̀ wọn lọ yà fún ní ọwọ́ tẹ́lẹ̀ máa ti fẹ́ ṣèyàwó tó ti kú bí ọdún kan yóò ti máa wọ aṣọ rẹ̀ àwọn kẹ́tí ọ̀dì ṣèyàwó tẹ́lẹ̀ wọ́n máa yọ ọṣọ fún tí wọ́n ní wọ́n máa wọ aṣọ ní òkè pé tọrọ ẹ̀ wọ́n gbà ó wọ́n tọ̀rí tí wọ́n rò láàárọ̀ báyìí tọ̀rí tí wọ́n rò lọ́sẹ̀ tọ̀rí wọ́n yọ aṣọ bíi méje láti òkè lérí sí èlò papọ̀ mọ́ra wọn.
téèyàn bá fẹ́ joyè àálò òfin téèyàn bá fẹ́ ṣèkómọ wípé ìkómọ yìí lárinrin àmú aṣọ òfin fún.
It's like you wearing an art piece. You can imagine wearing a Mona Lisa. People will look at you like, oh my God, that's $1 million going there. So that's the same way I see Ashoke in terms of the importance of Ashoke in Lagos. People will not have their parties without Ashoke. They would, one way or the other, it's either the men are wearing the Ashoke cap, or the women have the gele and the shawl, the ipele, and they want the tie on, on their waist. So you can't take Ashoke away from Lagos fashion.
This was my grandfather's funeral. Yeah, and this must have been 1968. And obviously, the Oleku that's come back was in then, the short sleeve buba, and we're all wearing a pinky Ashoke. And
this was pink?
Yeah, it was pink. This is a black and white picture, but this was actually a pink Ashoke, which was very unusual at the time. And we had these, you see, we're wearing bags. The bags with the long strap and the little short one, you know, and the little, that was really, really, if you had one of those bags, you were, you know, considered terribly fashionable.